Somebody needs to mute their phone.
Thank you.
That was my most common one I used.
Yeah, it's good.
So it costs you $5,000.
No, all you have to do is have a master's degree or a CPP.
Oh, that's a degree.
Yep, go on CPP.
I don't have a master's degree, I just do it.
It's all good.
It's all good. I learned and just did it on my own.
I can't concentrate.
You got 2 minutes. Run it back. Okay, to those of you who are just almost finished or finished already, I'm gonna give you out the answer sheet. And you had to fill in an A or a B on each one. And you correspond that with the number on the answer sheet and circle that. And at the end, at the bottom of your answer sheet, total the numbers you have on each group. So I'm gonna give each table, we have another couple of minutes to finish that. Finish your answer sheet. Make sure we get it.
depends on the situation. It could be an A and B for some of these.
We're gonna get into that. You put the one that most reflects you, most of the time. Are you short one? No, I was short. Oh, the score. You had an A and a B. Okay, so study number one. Yeah, and that's how you fill them out. No. Nothing in, you don't put any other than the circle of one that you you circle the one, if you had number one, then you circle the one that's on there.
Right here.
The
Okay, yep, got it.
There's an A and a B here, so you circle A, wherever your A is on number 3. It's very, but you had A for here, A for here. If you have A, whatever one you circle. One is A, wherever A is. Put it in the end, your circle.
Okay, I'm sorry.
You got it now?
Yes, sir.
You add your total and place it on the bottom for each column. There's no bad style, no wrong style. Each style has its strength in certain scenarios.
So it's just 1 point per.
Add them up at the bottom. You see what's it? You add up the ones you circle. I don't know, just 1, 2, 3, 4.
For A.
No. Whatever you got here, 1, 2, 3. She had 3 that.
Oh.
Okay, we're gonna get started. You can still finish scoring, but we're gonna go on. What is conflict management and why do I need to know this? It's a form of behavior that a person practices in response to conflict with others. Whether it's marriage, whether it's relationships, whether you're on the job, you know, it's a form. You need to know how people may respond. They have different styles. I had a person one time, they told me, you're gonna do this. And I said, let me share what you're gonna do. They slammed the door and said, you're gonna do this. They were a boss. I didn't like it. I didn't know their style. Now I know their style, what their style is. I know why they need to do that. 2, when living and interacting with others, you need to know how to resolve issues on a different level. No matter as long as you live, you're gonna come into problems. A lot of people say a good marriage is a marriage without problems. That's wrong. A good marriage with a spouses, husband and wife can learn how to overcome problems, but they need to know their style. Your style can change depending on your position. And I've seen some people, man, they're under authority, and man, they just so meek and mild and gentle and sweet. But when they're in authority, they're like a tiger, man. They're ready to chew you up and spit you out. So you just need to know the styles of different people. Conflict, where does it come from? You may have different goals. And sometimes as leaders, we don't share our goals, our vision, so people don't have an understanding where they are. 2, personality conflict, one of the biggest ones. You just always clashing. You need to be aware of that. Another one is scarce resources. This is common in marriage when there's no money or when the money is funny. Either way, it's a common one in that area when you get in trouble like that, because they don't have a values together about how to spend money. You know, I don't get to talk about my wife a little later. I don't have any money to give her, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. I got money to give her. Again, the styles, different people have different styles, and these are going to be 5 common conflict management styles. And their values. We had a good lesson last week on values. That's why values are so important, because a lot of people won't share their values, but they will speak to you based upon their values. You need to know those things. So that's how conflict comes. There's more. Those are just some primary ones. There are others. Okay. A lot of times when people think of conflict, man, they shudder. But there's a positive side of conflict. Is how you handle it, how you respond to it. And that it can teach you to make the most of each situation, use it as a learning opportunity or a leadership opportunity. I've learned so much from Pastor Brooks about conflict resolution, how to confront, how to move forward and not be ashamed. 2, you can also use an opportunity to transform the situation into something better. Usually when you work together and come together, you're resolving conflict and you work it out, things will get better, you know, in that area. And so that's the positive side of conflict. If I ask you the negative side of conflict, you can come up with many reasons. We're not going to go into that. 5 conflict resolution styles. And this is what you're doing. 1 is competing. It's assertive and uncooperative. You try to satisfy your own concerns at your teammates' expense. And someone might be saying, man, when is that ever good? It can be. You will know. It can be. Before we leave, you will know. Now, how many here, before I get into it, if I get deep into that, how many, let me go through my list. How many of you that was your number 1 competing? That was your lowest, your highest?
One of my highest.
One of your highest, okay. No style is a bad style. What about collaborating?
It was my highest.
That's the highest? Okay, good. What about compromising?
Highest. That's my highest.
Highest? Okay.
Compromising and avoiding.
Okay, good. We're going to talk about all of it. What about avoiding?
Next.
Okay, we're going to get into all the good and the bad of everything. So when you come away from this, you're going to know, because each style you use in a different situation. And every style can be learned if you choose to learn it and know how to operate on it. And if you use the wisdom of God, you'll know when to use it and how to use it. And the 5th one is withdrawing. How many of you use that? Yes. As your lowest?
Yeah, I'm sure that I use that with food.
with fools. Okay, well, that's a good way to use it, but we're going to get into a more practical way also. Okay, so collaborating, assertive and cooperative. You try to find a win-win solution that completely satisfies both you and your teammate. 3rd one is compromising, intermediate, assertive, and cooperative. You try to find an acceptable settlement that only partially satisfies your concerns of those of your teammate. We're going to go through this in depth, each one, so you'll walk away knowing, man, this is how I'm going to operate. Avoiding, unassertiveness, and uncooperative. You sidestep the conflict without trying to satisfy your concerns or those of your teammates. And we'll get into the why behind all that. And accommodating, unassertiveness, cooperative, you attempt to satisfy your teammates' concerns at the expense of your own. This is how it looks on a scale. On one side here, I'm going to go high is assertive or low assertive. And that's assertive means that person is pushing their own goals. Here, cooperative, low and high, that means when you get to the high end, they're pushing someone else's goals. Okay? Remember this, truth is often error is often truth taken to the extreme. So if you use any of these to go to the extreme, it can create trouble. So we're going to know how to bring balance in that. Compromising is in the middle of all 4. No one is better, no one style is better than the other. We need to learn and appreciate all the styles. Benefits of understanding all conflict resolution styles. Am I going too fast?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you have to ask?
Y'all got to follow me. I don't have much time. I'm going to try to slow down, but I'm going to give you everything because it's a lot of information. I really want you to have an understanding of it. You have an awareness of your own style. That's first. Find out your own style, and you're going to find out from different scenarios you may use different styles. You're going to learn even more today on when to use those styles. Two, you can appreciate the views of others even if their style is different than your own. That was the biggest thing I learned from this, how to appreciate other style. You know, because at one time I just was thinking about my style, man, and you came out with another style, I just got mad. Didn't take the scandal on, but got mad. In that area, you don't want to, and then two, you can practice thinking outside of the box and how to use your styles to help bring the group together. Good leaders and team members understand how to deal with all conflict resolution styles. And you want to learn how to deal with that. And that's where we're going to go. Accommodating, we're going to accommodate. But before we get into that, just to help you out, I want to give you some little things about each style so you have something to go with. You're going to get a lot more. You're going to get another email from me about that. And Carmen, all of them, they received the bike. I gave them an email and everything. Y'all get it. Well, so accommodating is high. Remember that scale? Accommodating is high on cooperativeness and low on assertiveness. Being assertive. So if this is your number one, you know, I try to work with people, but I don't give them what my agenda is or what I have, what my take is. Two, if you're accommodating, you oftentimes are giving during conflict. Acknowledge they made a mistake, decide it was no big deal. These are some of the characteristics if you're walking and accommodating. Everyone still with me? Four, put relationships first, ignore issues, and try to keep peace at any price. How many had a high score of accommodating? Accommodating is very similar, but yes, it's like withdrawing. No. The fifth one that says accommodating, that withdrawing was a mistake there. That should be accommodating. I'm so sorry about that. At the bottom, it should be accommodating.
But it's at the top. Says it at the top.
Says it at the top, but then at the bottom it can be confusing. Okay. Effective when the other person or party has a better plan or solution. If they have something better, it's already be accommodated. That's when you use it. You know they got a better solution. Let them flow with it. Some other things. Some things you might think or say, it would be my pleasure. Showing reasonableness. These are things that an accommodating person might say or do or think. Developing performance. You're more interested in what they're got than what you have. Creating goodwill. It's the atmosphere you're trying to create or the people you're trying to serve and you're working with. Keeping peace. A lot of people who do accommodate, they just want to keep peace, man. We don't want to bring up a lot of stress or conflict. Retreating. You have a tendency to just fall back. It's not avoiding because you may express yourself, but you're letting them know I'm okay with what you have. A lot of times you may be involved in comedy because it's so important to you. And so you must say, man, let it flow. Because it's not a great deal with me. Accommodating skills. What happens when these are the skills, the things you do, you'll forego your desires. Because you're accommodating, you're selflessness. You're good at obeying orders because you're accommodating. You just want to see things work out. And you have the ability to yield. These are all characteristics of that. Overuse of accommodating. If this is your pattern a lot, your ideas get little attention. You may have great ideas, but they get little attention because you're always accommodating for the most part. Two, your influence is less because you're always accommodating to the other person. So you may have great ideas, but they never get out because you're accommodating. Three, loss of contribution. You find yourself not contributing as much. You have the ideas, but you won't say anything. You're at the table, or you'll say something, but you just release it, but you're not doing anything about it. Rebellion. Now, what happens if you keep saying it over and over again and nothing happens, you'll start rebelling on the inside and getting upset. Underuse, when it's not being used, lack of rapport. And what I mean by lack of rapport is the relationship not there, because see, we're not being accommodating to one another. And it might be competing, so you lose the rapport. Low morale, because it's not being in use. People are not being accommodated, so people, exceptions not recognized. And a person who doesn't use accommodating at all, they're normally unable to yield or unwilling to yield, either or, in that area. How is it best used? So these are the scenarios when you can best use accommodating. You already know that. When others can resolve the conflict more effectively. I'll just be accommodated. They can resolve the conflict, and if someone gets something done, I'm okay with it. When the issue is much more important to the other person than to yourself, to satisfy the needs of others and to show you our reason. I often say, on things of conviction, I stand like a rock. On things of preference, I swim with the current. That's an accommodating statement that I will use. To build up social credits for later issues which are important to you. If you're part of a team, you accommodate now in order to sell a point that's more important to you later on. When continued competition will only damage your cause when you're outmatched and losing. It's almost like throwing in the towel, but that's a good way to use it. I'll save it up for another time. And when preserving harmony and avoiding disruption are especially important to you. People love peace. That's one of my values. I love peace. I don't like, I'm not gonna go there. Okay. To aid in the development of your team by allowing them to experiment and learn from their own mistakes. A lot of time with my team, even at New Genesis, I will be accommodating, let them do it. And we learn together, for that. So that's accommodating the best used. Avoiding. Oh, that's right on that schedule. Avoiding, right? Withdrawal, okay. Avoiding conflict is low assertiveness and low cooperativeness. Is avoiding. Avoid the conflict entirely or delay their response instead of voicing concern. And you just have to guard against, can create some space in an emotional environment. In other words, you just totally withdrawn. Not a good long-term strategy, because it can hinder what you want to get across or what the group wants to get across, because you're not in it. A lot of times when a marriage gets in this place where they're just avoiding each other, it's in serious trouble in a relationship. Avoiding. I'll think about it tomorrow. Issues of low importance. You can avoid, and that's not a problem on that one, but they're real low important. Reducing tension. Man, I want to deal with it, so I let it slide. Buying time. Low power. In other words, I don't have a say. I don't have a voice. So why should I say anything? Because if I do say something, they don't want to listen to me. Allowing others. Avoiding. Symptomatic problems. Sometimes avoiding can be a problem of something else. That's been growing. You find this a lot in abusive cases. If someone's been abused, they'll be avoiding or denying it and won't want to get involved because of something more deeper. Could be something from totally in the past. Skills. A person who has avoidance skills, they have the ability to withdraw. They know how to cut you off and not to respond. Sidestepping, sense of timing, able to leave things unresolved. And that's the challenge of it. You never get to deal with it. It's left unresolved. And what's buried alive stays alive. And you don't deal with it. You don't deal with it at all. Overuse of avoiding. Overuse, it means a lack of input from you. If you don't say anything, how can people know what's on your mind? What your ideals are, what your thoughts are. On decisions made by default because you're not at the table, or you, as Pastor Brooks called it, you're AWOL, absent without leaving. So you're into that. And issues fester. They continue to grow because you haven't dealt with it. And then cautious climate. because you move. You're very cautious about moving, but you never say anything because you're avoiding. Are you getting something? Is it making sense?
Yeah.
Underuse of avoiding. In other words, if it still can be good, but if it's not used at all, hostility, hurt feelings come. Because you have it inside of you and you start to get hostile. You get mad. You don't get bitter. Things that get better, but you get bitter. Too many causes. Because nobody's saying nothing. So it's still out there. And 3, lack of prioritization or delegation. So people not volunteering for anything because they're avoiding everything. And that makes it hard for the team to really be effective. But it is a time when it's good to use. I want you to know that. Everything's not gloom and doom. It is a time when it's good to use. When the issue is trivial, of only passing importance, and when other more important issues are pressing. So, okay. When you perceive no chance of satisfying your concerns, when you have low power or you are frustrated by something that would be very difficult to change. Now, if I'm a leader and I sense that in my team, then I'm going to just give them more power, more influence, more authority, something to say. I'm going to encourage them. And they may have job security over saying something. Am I making sense? To let people cool down, to reduce tensions to a productive level and regain perspective and composure. We often tell couples, Joyce and I tell couples, you should have a time where you're free to call time out. And no questions asked. You call the time out, you back away. Whoever calls a time out, if I call a time out from Joyce, it's not so much just avoiding for good. I have to set a time when we're going to come back and meet together again. But to keep tension down, we'll call a time out. 3, when gathering more information outweighs the advantages of an immediate decision. In other words, that's what we call the timeout for. When others can resolve the conflict more effectively, and you're part of a group, you may not say anything because you see what the work is already being done. Whether it's in a relationship or in a business. A lot of times this is used in the business field. Collaborating, which is the one most people want. Collaborators are both assertive and cooperative. Assert own views, but also listening to other views and welcoming differences. And welcoming differences. And welcoming differences. Okay, I just want to get that point across because they got to be able to welcome, not just accept the welcome. Okay, seek a win-win outcome. Identify underlying concerns of a conflict. What collaborators can do. Create room for multiple ideas. And it's good if you have a team. Now, how many said I had a few who said they were collaborators. You'll want one person around the table who has that style. Require time and effort from both parties. They got to be willing to spend time. Some of the statements here, 2 heads are better than one. Anyone ever heard that one before? Collaborators. Integrating solutions. Well, people are bringing to the table their solutions and their ideas and their thoughts. And they create an atmosphere where people feel good about sharing themselves. A learning environment. Collaborators on learning. Merging perspectives. All that is about collaboration. Gaining commitment. When people have the buy-in, they're committed to you. Committed to the organization. Improving relationship. All this about collaboration. High assertiveness and high cooperation. That's all about collaborating. And you have to learn on your own when those scenarios are good for you to walk in that. Now, skills, the ability to listen. That's what coaching gives you. The ability to non-threatening confrontation. Non-threatening. You know, you can confront, but people don't feel threatened. And they know that by a history of getting to know you on the team. And analyzing input, identifying concerns, that's what collaborators do. And they work together. That. Overuse. It does have some negative. Too much time on trivial matters. That's a big one. They're not getting to the point. Diffuse responsibility. In other words, collaborating so good, no one has to take care of the responsibility of what should be done. Others may take advantage of you being a collaborator, especially if they're a competitor or competing. and work overload. You can have more work to do. It takes longer to collaborate, for that. That's why our government has trouble, because they're not willing to take time to collaborate. They do compromise. We get into compromise a little later. Underuse of collaborating when it's deprived of mutual gains. Because all of us here have ideas on something. When we bring those ideas together, we don't collaborate, we'll never see those ideas. Lack of commitment. Because you find out when there's very little collaboration, it can also lead to very little commitment in the group. Low empowerment, because people don't feel they can say something, so they don't say anything. That's all the underuse of collaborating. And then loss of innovation. You miss the creative ideas. You want to be able to get those creative ideas out because people have something to offer. Collaborating is best used to find an integrative solution when both sets of concerns are too important to be compromised. When you really want something that's important, you collaborate. 2, when your objective is to learn, testing your own assumptions, understanding views of others. In other words, in this group right here, I want to learn from you. So I'm sitting around a table, let's say our men, and I think when we talk about Joseph at the men group before, I said, while the men were repenting and sharing all this stuff, God just spoke something. I learned from the men at the table, but it really convicted me to grow and go. And that's what collaboration does. To merge insights from people from different perspectives on a problem. A lot of times we want everybody to be saying the same thing, but let's get some different perspectives. Because we can learn from the different perspectives people have to bring to the table. Okay? And to gain commitment by incorporating others' concerns into a consensual decision. And now you're building a team, and people feel empowered and they can go forward. That's when collaboration is best used. And to work through hard feelings which have been interfering with an interpersonal relationship, especially through marriage. And we have, and I didn't get a chance to get but we have a 10-step conflict resolution model that Joyce and I have used. We don't say step 1, step 2. We just know how to do it. But for couples, we just give them step 1, step 2, step 3 until you go into your own flow for that. Competing. People who approach conflict in a competitive way assert themselves and do not cooperate while pursuing their own concerns at another's expense. And sometimes when you're in a competing situation, you're fighting for what you believe is right. Take on a win-lose approach where one person wins and one person loses. Does not rely on cooperation with the other party to reach an outcome. And may be appropriate for emergency when time is important. Sometimes you have to make those decisions. Anyone heard this? My way or the highway?
I said it to my child.
You said it to your child, huh? I had a teacher, a good friend of mine, and he had the miracle because God healed him when they thought he was dead twice. And I had a chance to have breakfast with him last week. And so I remember he used to say in his class, he said, we have a democracy here. Everyone has the freedom to talk, but it's run by a dictator. And he said, I control when, how, and who you're going to talk to. But he had an order. His class was in order. No one messed with him. Well, he was a big man, about 6'5", 300. Played football for Purdue. Not gonna mess with him. Quick action. Sometimes this is very, very useful management skill. But you gotta get something done right away. Unpopular decisions. In other words, you're competing when decisions, you may have to make an unpopular decision, and you know what the decision is, and it's not going to be good for people. They're not going to like it, but you're going to make the decision and say, this is it. Vital issues. Protection. For the protection of the organization or for the protection of your family. Like Pastor Brooks says, he said, if somebody breaks into my house, I'm not going to ask you, what are you doing? he said, I'm going to take care of you by any means possible. High assertiveness, but low competing skill, the ability to argue or debate. The ability to use rank or influence. asserting your opinions and feelings, standing your ground, stating your position clearly. In the early years of our marriage, not that I had the competing skills, I used to say I'm the head. And then God corrected me and said, you don't have to say you're the head once you start acting like it. And he said you start acting like it, you're going to float. Now, I had a wife who knew karate and would threaten me. So I just say it too loudly, okay? But I definitely thought it a lot of times in that area. Overuse of competing, lack of feedback. People eventually won't say anything. Surrounded by you. Because they won't say anything. Because they don't want to get into the argument. Reduced learning, low empowerment. All those are overuse. Underuse of competing. Restricted influence. Indecision. People be slow to act, or you'll be slow to act, and contributions withheld. You know, those are underuse of competing. It is a skill that can be learned and used at a certain time. It's best used when quick, decisive action is vital. Back in 2003, I think, we had faced a financial crisis in the church. And we had to make some decisions. Pastor Brooks, then it was Pastor Brooks and I, we sat down and made some decisions for the staff. And there were some people we just had to let go because we had our outgo exceeded our income. And so we had to let some, but that wasn't a group decision. We had to sit down and weigh out the pros and cons, but we knew we had to do something. Otherwise, we would continue to be in a financial situation, challenge. With important issues where unpopular courses of action need implementing, such as cost cutting or enforcing unpopular rules and discipline. For most time during my time as a congregational pastor, I had to sit people down when it was very noticeable sin, evident. You know, like you're running out of somebody's house in an adulterous situation. I had to sit you down. You know, and we saw all of the above. And so they would come, it would never be advertised. They'd come to me. I would sit down and say, what does the word say? What are your consequences? Now I would sit them down for a minimum of 6 months.
Oh, that's good.
Now someone told me, said, Pastor Armstrong, you sat somebody down for 5 years. And it never came back to me. I'm not thinking about it. And they came to church back. They came to church all the time. And now they're in a leadership capacity. With issues vital to company welfare, when you know you are right. You got to make the tough decisions sometimes. To protect yourself against people who take advantage of you. All those are real tough decisions. When you're responsible for something and a decision needs to be made and you believe your decision is the right one. And we're going to move on. Compromise. Compromise are moderately assertive and moderately. They're right in the middle. Remember that scale we had? They were right in the middle. A little bit of everything. Try to find fast, mutually acceptable solutions to conflict that partially satisfy both parties. Who does the most? Who do you know use this compromising approach? Anyone know? Any group? Our government? Are they trying to avoid a budget? They come up with something because it's temporary. Mostly when you do compromise, it results in a lose-lose approach, but it's a temporary solution. And when the government, they did a budget last month to keep the country going, they had to do it again this month. Keep the country going. And that's a compromise. They do compromises to keep it, but it's temporary until they get another solution. Consider an easy way out when you need more time to collaborate to find a better solution. And they've yet to find a better solution. So they bring on a compromise, temporary, until the next due date. And you notice that rarely, when they do the compromise and they finish it and they say, we solved it, they rarely start back the next day to come to a solution. It's like a week before and they come back. They do compromise again. Yeah. Let's make a deal. Moderate in importance. Equal power, strong commitment. That's where our government is. They won't come. Temporary solutions. Time constraints. Backup plan. Moderate assertiveness and moderate cooperation. Negotiating. Finding a middle ground. That's what we try to do. It's nothing bad. It's just, that's the style. Making concessions. Assessing value. Overuse of compromise. You lose big picture, long-term goals. I believe that's why our government is lost. Long as the big picture. How do we run our country? Lack of values and trust, which is what each political party has. Cynical climate, the Senate. Underuse, unnecessary confrontation, frequent power struggles, unable to negotiate effectively. It does have its place and it benefits us. That's used when goals are moderately important but not worth the effort or potential disruption of more assertive ones. They're important, but you can do something better in a different way. When two opponents with equal power are strongly committed to mutually exclusive goals, as in labor management and bargaining. To achieve temporary settlements to complex issues and to arrive at expedient solutions under time pressure. And that's what happens with our government. As a backup mode when collaboration or competition fails to be successful. That's the compromising. Which one is best? Which one do you think is best?
What?
Of the 5 styles.
It depends.
Depends.
They're all
It depends on the situation. They all have a place. Because as a realtor, I'm looking like compromise. I have to be quick and make a compromise. You say it's lose-lose, but I'm thinking win-win because I'm trying to get you to close. So there's a lot of compromising in a real estate transaction.
There's no bad one. Some people say one is worse off than others, but they all depend on the scenario, the situation you're in. You can learn to use all 5 if you know when to use them. But you got to look at yourself and say, am I using one too much? And it's not helping out my situation.
Yeah.
And I had to learn that for myself. I learned how to use one too much. I got to change up and use a different style. But if one is more common to you than the others, there's no best way to handle conflict. Each conflict is different and requires a different response. As a society, we teach 2 heads are better than 1, that's collaborating. Kill your enemies with kindness, that's accommodating. Split the difference, that's compromising. Leave well enough alone, that's avoiding. And might makes right, that's competing. And so those are just all the different ways, which one is best. Conclusion. Different conflict management styles may be used when faced with different situations. That's the thing I want you to pick up. Knowing yourself and fully understanding each situation will help you understand the conflict management style needed. And that's what you have to be a discerner of. And then we're going to go through a tri-scenario based. All we're going to do is you're going to end up coaching each other based upon your conflict management style. I'm going to show you how to go through that in a minute. Coaching questions. Now, before we get into that, you're going to pair off. Make sure everyone has someone. I got 6, 5. So Anish, nope, Carmen actually come over here in this table. I have 6 over here. And Anitra, you and Joyce can eventually coach each other. I got 5 here too. Okay. You 2 coaches, you 3 men are gonna coach one another. You're gonna be a shorter time if you get champion. Okay. Now, one of the things you're gonna ask them what was the score? You're asking how did they do, what did they think about? Those are just different questions. And tell me more. Does that identify with you? Everyone understand what I'm saying? You just because you want to get to learn what their scenario, what their situation is. What is your most management style? Which number did you get the highest? Some people say they're bilingual. They had 2 highs. Okay, so you share those, and then you're gonna ask somebody, well, does that resonate with you? Sometimes people take an assessment that doesn't resonate with you. Okay, why or why doesn't it? Everyone understand? Okay, and then from there, you can draw some other questions. Now, how much time do we have? We're going to have about 10 minutes to coach each other. And these 2, you're going to have 7 minutes to coach one another. So you rotate and someone keep the score, and I'm going to give you the 10 minutes. But here's some other questions. I'm going to leave these questions out so you can see them. What's your basic concern about whatever it is? Okay, tell me about this. Tell me, how did you come to that? How did you come to that conclusion? Can you give me a scenario where you use this style? And don't think of any style as being a wrong style. Okay, what do you think about this? What do you think about the style you, and has it been a good time you use it, or has it been a time that you should not have used it, but you used it? Everyone understand what I'm saying? How can we fix it? What can we do to change? Is there area of your style, one of your styles you need to change? Are you overusing it? Or is there another style you're underusing? What would happen? And you present a question. What would happen if your boss came to you and just said, we're doing it this way regardless? How would you handle that? So it's just you, and as you listen to the person, I want you to listen to them, and the Holy Spirit will give you other questions to ask. How else could you do it? In other words, you use this style for this scenario. What other style could you have used? What could you tell me about the management style you use? That's the top style you use. Am I making sense of this? It's going to take some time. Then what? Could you help me understand why did you use this management style? Why is this your top style? All of those are just different questions. What do you think you would lose if you use this? If a person was avoiding, what would you think if you use if you were more assertive? Or use a different style? What have you tried before? Now, what happens when you get someone and you take them through this is because you recognize that they have a challenge in their relationship or a challenge on the work. And so you're trying to find out why the challenges keep coming, why they're avoiding all the time. And a lot of them can say we use a style too much, and so we don't get our point across, or we use a style too little in that regard. What do you want to do next? How can I be of help? So those are just different questions you can ask. Any questions on that? No, I mean, you just pick and choose. I'm not just saying, I'm not going to have you answer all of them. I just want you to ask, and you may not even ask any of them, just how you flow. Okay, so you have 10 minutes. And those on Zoom, you have 10 minutes to work with one another also.
Hey, Camille. Hey, you know how to do three-way? Do turbo mode. Okay. Yeah, I can hear you. No, I don't hear you. You have her number? Yeah, it's 547 2834. 547-2834.
Are we supposed to be coaching each other now? Hello? Hello?
And then also, like the second one of their sharing was to some sort of compromise. So I don't think because I have a teacher
I'm here. I don't. Is Sonia on or no?
yes, that might be
Robin, is that you? Hello? 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 Robin?
Okay. All right.
Oh, okay.
No. Oh, okay.
Hello?
Hello. Hello.
Hello? This is Joy.
This is Lorraine. I'm on the phone with
Hey, Lorraine.
Neil. I think I'm on the. I should be on. Well. Hello.
Yeah.
He didn't answer. Yeah, that's fine. What was your highest score? Oh, girl, mine was avoiding. I was kind of surprised, but I wasn't because I did it based on work. Ooh. Bad hair day. Okay. Because I don't know why it switched off of this. Oh man, that's not good. I mean, I don't know why it switched off of where it had the questions. Yeah. That's all right. Yeah, that's, I don't know why I did that, but anyway. Yeah, mine was avoiding. I did it based on work. And I've just gotten to the point where that's what I do. I switched to a new department, which is the STD department. And coming in, it was kind of hostile. It was the DIS, which I am, and another young lady against the nurses because they had their nursing degrees. They felt they knew more than us and could kind of boss us around without being our boss. And we weren't having it. So it was a lot of tension and bad feelings and a lot of things going on where it turned into racial stuff because it ended up being a whole white team against the two DIS. And we have a passive, very, very passive boss who, you know, she's a people pleaser. So, you know, over here, yes, 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 over there, yes, yes, yes. You know, and as a leader, you can't be that way.
So how do you feel about the reality that she came up as a higher order?
I don't like it, but in order for me to keep the peace and to just buy my time another 19, 18 months, that's what I do. And it's purposely done. It's purposely done. Anytime there's a decision to be made, I'll add my input, say what I need to say. But even though they know that my decision is the best decision sometimes, they still will go along with someone else because they don't want to do it. And it's obvious. And to the point where I've even said it. So I just said, well, don't ask me anything else. If you know, my opinion is never valued or taken into consideration, just don't ask me. So it's just got.
Are there other options for responding that you consider?
Yeah.
Options for what now?
Are there other options you consider when responding to their failure to your options or your input?
Well, the thing about it is that
3 minutes.
I've been there longer than the person who was our assistant who came in to assist us in the program. She's Caucasian, who day one, I gave her a job and she said to me, I need to go find out if this is my job.
The brother just
And I
told me
looked
your
at her
time
and I
is
said,
up.
what? Well, I need to find out if this is my job or if this is your job. And
30
you're just
seconds
passing
to
it
finish
to me.
up.
I
Then
mean,
you
you
switch.
just started, you're not doing anything. So if you're to assist us, you know, I mean, I'm not having you do my work, but if I need you to close a case out because I've gotten all the information, you are assisting us in closing cases. But she had to go find out if it was her job or not. Yeah, and then two, three other times I've given her stuff to do. And then she came back to me and said, I was told that you're not my boss and you don't give me stuff to do. And I looked at her, no. But then I went down to my boss and I said, I don't know what the deal is. And I told her what she had said to me the first time I said something to her. I don't know where she's getting this from. So who is calling her, telling her that she doesn't have to listen to me or do anything? And my boss just cowered. So where would she get that from? Come on now. Where else would she get it from? But my boss is a people pleaser where she will not, in that case, admit that she said it and why she said it. And it just turned into something really ugly. So I just told my boss, I just won't say anything to her because then she started going to my boss and saying that she felt threatened by me. That she felt that I was threatening her. I said, when I asked her to do a job, that's her job. How am I threatening her? And so it was a big blow up. It was taken to corporate, over to HR, and then to corporate counsel. And corporate counsel said, I mean, you have nothing to stand on here. And so.
Have you been offered the option of
No, have went over to HR and asked to look at my file to see what was put in my file. And nothing was put in my file because I really didn't have anything to put in there. And HR came over to our building, had a meeting with her, but never talked to me. No one has ever talked to me. And so I just said, you know what, I'm just buying my time. Get out of there, get away from these people, and move on. And would not stay there if I'm trying to get my 8 years in so that I can get 65% of my insurance paid. So that's the reason why I'm toughing it out. But I just do my job and talk to her as little as possible, and I asked my boss, I said, if she's helping us and she feels, and instead of my boss being a leader, to say, look, you got to get thick skin, nobody's threatening you. And my boss was even in the room when one time we were having a conversation and she just threw that out. And I looked at her and I said, I'm leaving because she's dangerous. She's using words and terms about me that sitting here listening to our conversation is not true. So I'm leaving because she's dangerous. And so for me, it's best for me to remove myself from this situation. And my boss said nothing as a leader. People have cussed at us, slammed their hands down on the table in a meeting, cussed at us and said some of everything. And she says nothing.
What are some other things that you've tried to reach in that situation? You've been willing to your understanding today that, when it comes to conflict, this is how you
I wrote a letter to the EO, my boss, and HR, after I found out that she went to HR, because I document a lot of stuff. And so I laid it all out. And I said, I've been in meetings where I've been cursed at, and my boss is sitting right there and nothing's done. So what is the difference? I don't understand. If I'm asking, if she's there to assist us in a job, and I give her work to do, how is that threatening when she's paid to do a job?
But as opposed to speaking with her, are there other ways in which you can communicate in the past? Maybe like a ticket system or something like that?
Well, what happened was Karen ended up taking another job in the HIV department, so that left the opening and they hired another African American. So instead of me having all of the cases for county, I took Gorgeous, Bronson, Planned Parenthood, so I have less communication with her. I'm not communicating with her as before with counties and patients, because the majority of the time it was in regards to county patients, not outside entities. And so I don't have as much interaction with her. And when she do come up, and we were all in the same office, because she felt so threatened because I was giving her stuff to do, not telling her, but asking her, Dee, can you do so-and-so? Will you do so-and-so? And she turned it around and said I was threatening her. And then, what you understand or what you're learning about your conflict style, what would you like to see happen in the future? Well, for me, I would like to see us get along which, I mean, it's better now. I just said, you know, I'll speak to her and keep it moving. And so, you know, it came to the point where she left the office, went downstairs because they thought it was best for her and I, which I didn't see.
Can I interrupt you, Lori?
Uh-huh.
What I'm asking is what you'd like to see from yourself. So that's the only variable that you can actually have impact on.
Right.
So as you think about the fact that, you know, this is your conflict style,
Mm-hmm.
what would you like to see from yourself in the future? Because whether it's in this situation with your current employer, it can be someone that you serve with at church or someone that you What would you like to see from yourself?
Well, I would like to change that and not avoid or not be put in that position where I do avoid. You know, I just don't say anything. I don't add anything because anything I say is taken out of context. Where like the other three, well, my lowest was withdrawing, compromising, collaborating, and competing were even. They were all even. They were all, you know, even. They were 6. And so I would like to be where problem solving, being able to solve a problem. But you need, it takes more than me to solve a problem. When you have an issue with a person, and when that person is over exaggerating for whatever reason, I don't know. I don't understand it. Like I said, she came in the door. Okay. So for me, I would like to be where I can balance them all out and use what I need to use in whatever situation. You know, like when my husband and I have an issue, I just say, hey, look, we need to table this until later on, where you've thought about it, I've thought about it, you've prayed about it, I've prayed about it, we come together and figure out what we're gonna do.
Oh, girl.
Well, it looks like you have an idea of where you want to see.
Mm-hmm.
At what point do you think you can check in and see if maybe you start considering those things as your approach with new opportunities to address conflict? What are a couple of things that you can see yourself doing differently to produce those results? Not avoiding conflict, increasing your problem solving, and balancing your styles of conflict management. What are some things that you can actively do to be successful?
Okay, listen up. Time's up.
Well, I mean.
All right. I got a few questions to ask you, the group. When would you use this?
I guess listening more. And I should say, well, and I'm gonna just avoid that situation because that's just one, you know, situation that you know.
Normally, when I've used it in the past,
how I did
if
this
a couple
based
came in,
on
one of the
what was going on,
and they start talking about they have problems at home,
but
communicating, the constant conflict. I would ask them first before I give this out.
I guess communicating, asking more questions.
Tell me, they're giving me a scenario.
And
tell me how things are happening.
You know, and that
then I might eventually get to
more
this
questions
on a second session.
And resolving issues peacefully.
Okay. But it could be in marriage, could be parent-child relationship, could also be on work.
So you've identified
Could also be with friends. We would be good buddies before, now we're just constant.
Right, communicating.
You know, so those are times you
what the job entails.
But in using it,
because when your boss don't
make
know
sure,
what
like I even go further than marriage. I have some more tools that I make a decision. When she's not taking the time to learn what we do and what we need from a distance. In that, but it goes for work and relationship. I want you to know that. And
Mhm.
Donna asked a very,
Even though
very good
your
question.
client
She
is
said, you ever thought about how this complements the personality assessment, profile assessment?
We don't have a
And I said, I hadn't thought about it
Right.
really in depth. I said, one I did think about, most people who take the personality profile of this are normally S's. And S's like peace.
Well, I
So
can,
they might be those who avoid conflict.
And more so on the
In that area. And that's one of the things I can pick up from that. But I don't use it as an absolute,
right.
for that. We have something called
And
DIRT.
Camille, for this one, it's
We
really.
create our
kinda
own,
hard
we create our own
because
personality assessment. It was like this.
I wrote out
Doer, influencer,
everything
leader,
that
and
our
leader.
job
We
entails.
said you're made
I
from
was
the
asked
dirt,
to
so we
do
said we're
it.
gonna create our own.
I was asked
We have
to
our
do
own,
it.
and you'll see how
Everything that our
I
job
had the dirt.
entails and
If
what
you're
I
under
would
the
need,
influence of the Holy
what we would
Spirit, how
need
you
from
act.
an
Outside the
assistant
influence of the Holy Spirit,
to
this is
help.
how we act. If you were to do.
And it was just
I
a
had to
few
bring that when we
things,
created our
but
own, because we wanted to say, we're gonna do our own thing.
anytime I
And,
add
yeah, that's so much,
input,
but that was
it's
just something.
always
Now,
shot
Did this
down.
help today?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of
Yes.
hard
I
when,
can see where this could come in.
I mean, there are things that I can do,
Oh,
but if
definitely.
you're not hearing me, if you're not
Trying to get them to see.
meeting me in the middle,
Or
it's kind of hard for me to implement what I need to implement to get a job done, other than just,
It's
hey,
definitely, if
forget
you
it,
find you have
I'll do it all
manager with
myself.
a high D.
And then when
Oftentimes
the
find
cases aren't
themselves being
closed
completed.
on time,
And all I do
and
is
then
give
I'm
a viewpoint of
asked,
all the
well,
good and
you're
everything.
taking too long.
You know, and sometimes,
Well, that's what we have an assistant
do
for,
something
but
like
our
it is
assistant
good
is
for
not
this
assisting
is-
for whatever reason.
But
And so then when I lay it all
I
out,
wanted to
write
spend
it all
more
out,
time talking than I wanted to, but I wanted you to get a chance to see
it's still
everything I
shot
had
down.
on it and what I
So
did.
in
It was
that
my
situation,
most
it's just kind of hard. So I've just learned
couples and
just to
relationships
avoid
years ago.
conflict
It
and
helped them diagnose that
peace.
every style is good just when you use it.
just,
Especially,
that's what I
and this is a time, Malcolm, and I'm talking to the men, where you get a man
yeah,
alone and
so
talk to him
that
about this
probably
different
wasn't a
styles
good situation.
and how the styles can be used to
I
answer
probably
the
shouldn't have done that one.
how they can be used to hurt the relationship.
You know, it's okay that you did.
Mhm.
Any
What
questions
I
on it?
is the fact that,
I'm gonna send
what's
that.
her
I got
My
this
boss
girl right here. I'm blaming her. Damn.
name? The lady.
Because
Deanne.
I try, you know what I did? I got on here trying to send it right away. During the 10-minute time, I kept messing up. I said, let me forget it. I'm not gonna multitask. I think I learned from you, multitasking is not good. So I said, I'm gonna get home, but I am gonna do it. I do want you to have that. And there's gonna be something else. There's another area where you 90% in a certain area, you're strengthened. I'm gonna send you that 10-page report also in addition for that. Next week,
Right.
we're gonna go through 2 other assessments. I don't know if we're gonna have enough time for them. Most of you taking one or both of them. One that I now use with couples, high money personality. You ever taken that? Yeah, you took the 5 money personality.
Well, no.
We did that last year. You're gonna get, but
Even
you,
I am in the situation.
we did it in our, not in our class.
And
We did
The
it in,
mastermind, wasn't it? Was it in the
basically.
mastermind?
no, it was part of a
really,
group we had in the church.
you know,
Basically do what?
I
It was
said
in the
staying
finance
on,
but it's
you know,
not about
talking to
finance,
God about it.
But it's very good. I have to
And,
send you the link to take that
you
one
know,
first.
even in, with that, I, you know,
I didn't do it in money coach.
and now, I mean, it's gotten better. It has gotten better now that
And it's just a really good
we
tool.
aren't
It's
communicating
not about
as
budgeting or
much
anything, it's about how you are different
anymore, you know,
in
how
relationships in terms
she
of.
comes upstairs and,
You took it, Malcolm, I think
you
you.
know, I'm focused getting my work
So
done.
if you already taken, just keep it. I'm gonna give you some questions, we're gonna talk
And
about
then there
it.
was a
I'm not
little
gonna
more
spend a lot of time
conversation.
on that,
And
but we are
now it's
gonna,
to
we are
the
gonna
point
discuss all that.
where,
And
you
then the
know,
one
I
I
mean,
really
I
love
just
all the time is the 5
gotta,
love languages.
for lack of a better word, kill her with
And we're gonna
kindness.
close with the 5 love languages. Those are 2 powerful assessments
You
for
know, I
relationships.
ask about her
Love languages
family,
is
ask
even
about
with
her
your children.
kids, and,
You need to know your love
you
language.
know,
of your
show
child,
interest
so you
in
can better
her.
minister to them.
And,
So
you
those
know,
are the 2 we're gonna
the
talk
sad
about next
piece
week.
is that
I have
she's a
to send you
Christian
the
and
link
I'm
so
a
you can
Christian.
take your 5 minutes. Now, And the 5 money
And
personalities,
I
they're gonna
just,
ask you to spend money.
I
Don't
guess
spend
I
a
couldn't
dime.
understand.
5 money
I
personalities.
don't understand it.
You know, we
And
got
we're
all
both
the tools
Christians, and
and
so
we
that's
will
why I
give
do
you,
the avoiding.
I won't
I
cover
take
the
a
whole
step
outline,
back
but I will
and,
give you the teaching
hey,
outline, the training we
if
did,
you
the 5
say
money
A,
personalities
then
for
it's
the most
A.
part. To give you a better
Because
understanding.
anytime I say B,
But
my
those are
answer is
for
shot down
next
and
week.
it's A anyway.
Also, you're gonna get your final. So I'm gonna let you know what your final. Remember the
Yeah.
last 2 weeks that we
Have you
had?
considered
We
the
did
fact that,
we did 12 questions.
there's different.
And when those 12 questions, you had to, each group, each table had to make scenarios for them.
Yeah, and I have.
I'm so glad you
I've
turned them
never
in.
tried
Did
to
you think
figure
that when you
out
sent yours
what
today?
her style is.
I'm so glad you turned them in, because if you turn them
Um,
in, I'm gonna send them back out, because now you have
And
to
maybe I
make
should,
three questions
you
for
know,
each
maybe I
scenario.
should get a copy and give her this.
So you got 24 questions. That's
Or
the
give my
last 2
boss
weeks.
this test.
I'm gonna send those back out with some new instructions.
And I
on them.
thought about it
You just
while
have
we
to
were
complete
doing it.
that.
I thought,
And then for
man,
today,
this right here
in the
would be a
conflict
good thing to do
management
at my
style,
job.
you have to have 3 questions for each conflict.
This would be
We need to send you that.
a good
You'll
thing
send me
to
that.
do
I'm gonna
as
send
far
it
as
out to you as part of your final package.
conflict.
Now it's not
and,
due, it's due in March. So I'm getting to
you
you.
know, communication.
I'm asking you to do it next week.
And
March
we- I mean,
31st.
yeah.
March 31st. As long as I get it by March 31st. But I'm gonna send
Yeah.
that in a packet. I gotta put that package
You
all
ready to
together.
switch?
And
Yeah.
Jack, don't look at me.
I think
No, I'm just kidding.
it's 9 o'clock already.
No, but that's your final.
Yeah.
But
And
next
he
week
said
we're gonna do the
something
5
about
money
the final. I'm
personalities and
wondering
the
what
5
it
love language.
I heard
But
him.
anyone who's coaching, and you're
Supposed
coaching
to
in
be up
relationships,
to review.
and especially when you're coaching with couples in
There
relationships,
should be some
those
email
are two
too.
very
Yeah.
good tools to use in the coaching
Yeah.
part.
Okay. So what
Any
was
other questions?
your style?
I wonder, would
Yes.
you know that what we went over
Um,
last week about like the different levels of relationships? I actually use that
mine was
talking to
compromise.
about like their actual
Okay.
relationship.
That was your high. What
So
was your
actually,
low?
based off of what he said, I, you know,
So
asked him,
compromising was a 9.
you guys are on the same level.
Mine was a 9 in avoiding.
And he was like, no, where's your nine?
That's a big eye
Collaborating,
open. Most people don't know what level they're on.
collaborating,
But
and
charge them. That's a royalty. It's in the book. All right, let's stand up. Oh,
accommodating was a 5,
Mm-hmm.
and competing was a 2.
57.
Uh-oh.
Okay. Okay. Oh, yours. Okay. You had a 9 on compromising. And then and how do you use in this style of conflict resolution, when you say compromising, how are you doing it? In what situation?
Okay, sure. So for me, when I am in situations of conflict,
Mm-hmm.
I know my own mind. I make it a purpose to know my own mind.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not hard for me to determine early in the conversation whether what we're talking about is high or low on my priority.